They have a chance, but I mean, like you said, so weakened Cloud9. I still feel like G2 hasn't fully hit their stride yet. Yes, they now have these better ingredients on the roster. It feels like they're the better G2 than we've seen in the past, but is the best G2 better than the worst Cloud9? That's what we're about to find out.
Yeah, and of course we say the worst Cloud9 is just because they've only just kind of formed, really. I know
emerging Cloud9.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is
emerging Cloud9.
New look Cloud9. And I do think that Cloud9 looked a little bit kind of unsafe yesterday with their performance against E-United in particular. It was a 3-2, it was a best of 5. It's not necessarily where we thought Cloud9 would have gone. We'll take a look at the series layout here though and see maybe if there's some game types that can go in favor of G2 or whether it's going to be a comfortable one for Cloud9. So we kick things off with KotH Streets into StelluR Aquarius, Oddball Recharge, Capture the Flag Catalyst always makes me raise my eyebrows, and then StelluR Livefire. Any initial thoughts from you, Dave?
I mean, when I think of Cloud9 on Streets, I think of how sneaky players like Eco and StelluR are. They do just so many incredible plays where they'll just, be last one alive, wait around, hide around ATM, and then get that trade or wait for their teammates to spawn. So I feel like Cloud9 are such sneaky players on that map that I just can't see them losing this map.
Cloud9, what I will say about KotH Streets, though, is I remember Pro Series, the first Pro Series we saw this Cloud9 roster perform, they really struggled at setting up in their Kings. Great at breaking any setups, but they struggled to set up themselves. If G2 can take advantage of that, if we see G2 maybe being the team that's on top right from the get-go, maybe that could be the momentum swing that Bravo was talking about on the desk.
Yeah, that could absolutely be it. I guess when I break down any sort of play style for a team, I try to look at how are they doing in worst case scenario, how are they doing in neutral game, and how are they doing in best case scenario. Generally, figuring out the best case scenario is fairly easier to do than figuring out the worst case scenario. So I feel like if they went in the lab, learned from their mistakes, I have no fear that they'll have a strong setup.
And as we get further into the series, of course, StelluR Aquarius is always one of my favorites as a game 2 as well. It's great to see how both teams are going to be feeling on that map and mode, and then Oddball Recharge. Again, going into an objective that is very tight, very difficult to set up in certain areas, and maybe that can be something else that G2 can take advantage of. That being said, G2 getting top 6, and it's similar with G1 getting top 6 as well. Both these teams have kind of reached the promised land. This is their kind of area where they were setting their targets. And even though top 4 is achievable for these teams, I'm starting to wonder, are they going to have that potential to get to top 4?
Yeah, I mean,
can they actually get over that final hurdle?
G2 especially having to go against Cloud9, like that's one of the toughest hurdles to get to a top 4. But if you're going to do it, that is a very strong top 4 placement here, especially at this large event.
Yeah, it really is. It would set a lot, I think, about G2 and the changes they made with Barcode coming in. I think a lot of people were kind of scratching their head a little bit saying, well, how is Barcode going to perform? Is he going to be a player that will struggle in the North American region? And I think that's evident. He is not struggling. He's, in fact, been flourishing in this region and really has been putting on a show. But now it's Sunday. All right, Friday and Saturday, sure, you've played great, but will that pressure start to hit Sunday? Do you think there'll be any sort of difference in performance there?
I mean, you just got to hope for him to play his best. Ultimately, this has got to be a dream come true for someone like Barcode. Dominating the ANZ region, getting a chance to play in the top North American roster. You know he's been playing Halo for years. This is the moment he's been waiting for. He's got a chance to shine.
He has a chance to shine, and I tell you what, he's been shining a lot so far, and I'm excited to see whether he can carry on that. On the other side, on the flip side, Cloud9, you've got Bound. The Death spoke about it. Sure, this isn't the first look at Bound. We've seen it in Pro Series. This is another online tournament, but there is always going to be in the back of the mind, well, what would Renegade be doing here, right? Would Renegade be in a better position? The good thing, he's outplaced Renegade. FaZe are out of the competition, and now it's a chance for him to shine as well.
Yeah, that is a little weird. It's like an act like, oh, they used to always bring me coffee. I'm like, come on, that doesn't matter, man. I still got good snipe shots and stuff. Like, what's going on here? But one thing that's really shown to me throughout this event so far is look at how Renegade plays on this new roster and the sort of performances he's been putting up. Yes, he's had some incredible plays, but like overall as a performances tournament, it's not the same Renegade that we saw when we saw him playing on Cloud9. That has to be an incredible opportunity for someone like Bound, because look at Bound before he was on the FaZe roster, maybe not playing up to his full potential or not getting the full support that he potentially could have compared to a roster like this Cloud9 supporting roster.
And I think this is a difficult series to kind of try and predict, because I think throughout the whole tournament we've been saying the top 3 is locked down. You've got Optic, you've got Sentinels, and you've got Cloud9. That's been our top 3. And now suddenly we're saying, wait, actually, if Cloud9 lose this, they're not even top 4. And all those predictions get blown out of the water, and we're saying, well, why has that happened? Is it Cloud9 underperforming? Is it other teams overperforming? Cloud9 need to show here in this series why they are a top 3 team. Otherwise, teams like Sentinels, teams like Optic are just going to be laughing when they come up against them. So now you've got to show that you have strength in this series.
Yeah, when I used to compete and I would see team changes abound, sometimes it was a blessing, sometimes a curse. I would look at some rosters like, oh, like, look at, now they're struggling or they're not even as good as they were before. But then every once in a while, that magic would hit, a super team would form. It's like, oh, no, this roster is real scary. And so we're going to actually see, you know, throughout this event, do any of those teams click? Do any of those super rosters form and have a chance at taking first, especially when we get to Seattle?
Well, we are due to get underway then. It's Championship Sunday here in the North American Super. It's G2 versus Cloud9. A spot in the top 4 is on the line. We start on King of the Hill Streets. A very difficult game type to navigate if you haven't put the time in, haven't put the practice in. But we know both of these teams will be throwing everything into this game. And who else to start things off with than Barcode? He really has been such an incredible addition to this G2 roster. And he's already taken fights with Pznguin, and he's winning them.
Absolutely no fear. Challenging it, taking that straight up one-on-one, gonna grab these rockets, and wisely backs down over towards the B steps. Here's gonna be the moment. Does he get greedy and get too much time? Or does he just try to get the kills with rockets? I like this. Back down, stay alive, and use those rockets to get a couple easy kills.
Almost dips his toes in and says, hey, there's the bait. Someone come and have a look. Someone come and try and take me out. And he does manage to get 1 kill. Unfortunately, not a second.
I hate that second rocket, actually. You just know he was called out weak, and you got to give credit where it's due. For a roster like Cloud9, they're collapsed on the hill. They already had 2 kills. They knew what a weak rocket player was. You don't really have any other great shots on the top little steps unless you want to do a predictive rocket over the top pillar. So instead, he just says, someone's got to be coming from this angle. They're not going to come for tires again and give me a free shot. So I will shoot this at the stairs and just take my odds.
Pznguin's going to be no shield, so Barcode can easily clean that one up. Remember, he's still alive, still hasn't died yet. He's positioned himself well, but as I say that, of course, he will fall, and 3 members of G2 also have gone down. So now this is the chance for Cloud9 to set up. But I said it before this game started, they struggle with setups on this map and this mode, so they really need to eat away at this time, get as much scrappy possibility, so they can also put themselves in a good situation as this game progresses. Because we saw a lot of time gathered by G2 in the early stages, but already Cloud9 have now caught that up.
Yeah, and look at this interesting play here from G2. They spawn over in Tramp. Nobody immediately running over towards driveway, which I think is a great play. The last thing you want to do is go towards driveway immediately, let them know where your team's spawning, and then they can set up for that spawn trap. Instead, they start to push on over towards balcony and stairs so that when they get some cross-map fire shots over at the hill, then that driveway person can come in a little bit later. Unfortunately, it does not work out there, and here comes a strong set from Cloud9. Looks like they're going to close out this hill, get a couple kills here by Pznguin, and start scrapping up the tram time.
This is far better from Cloud9 than what I remember seeing in Pro Series on this map and mode. They've definitely been putting in the practice. Not only do they finish that hill in one setup, but they also get the rockets and break the tram setup from G2, so now they can start scoring once more. And Bound, the positioning we saw from him with the Stalker rifle, the shots he was just hitting, absolutely incredible. This is what you need from your new guy on the roster to keep that momentum up for the team. And now already Cloud9 have scored halfway through this second point.
Yeah, look at this. They decided to go, like you said, put Stalker over inside the hill. They're just able to keep everyone away. There's really no threats coming in against Bound. In fact, they decide to stack 2 players in the hill. This way, if G2 send 1 or 2 players out in bomb center, they're matching it with equal firepower and they're getting time at the same time. They're not letting their hill player get into a 1v1 or a 1v2.
I think the downside for G2 here as they go 2 points down is that Cloud9 would have got a little bit annoyed yesterday. There was some series that were a little bit too close. There was a series where they got absolutely destroyed by Optic Gaming, and that would have peed them off. That'll make them wanting to come in today and prove why they are a top team. Bound's going to get aggressive. Bound's going to try and do as much damage as possible, and he is somehow able to stay alive a little longer than I expected, but now we see all 4 dead for Cloud9. This is G2's chance to get a point on the board.
Yeah, it's been Cloud9's game for the last minute and a half or so, and here G2 get to shine for a second, but now what are they gonna do? I like this play from Sab. Sab, instead of just fully hiding in the hill, is trying to be a little active, but somehow Pznguin slips on through the bomb side of the map, unnoticed by any of the G2 members. I feel like that has to be considered a G2 mistake by not having a little bit more firepower to help ready in the center of the map, especially a few seconds before rockets are coming up.
Somehow Eco, as the last remaining player, was able to get a kill as well, which will really help the spawners just position themselves for these rockets. Barcode's going to be back tower. Straight Sick also very weak bottom middle, but Eco not able to get the final kills at the moment. As I say that, Gilkey will fall. Bound is able to do damage across the map, and Barcode, because of that, got the kill. And now, unfortunately, for Eco, just wasn't able to stay alive long enough, but Bound has done so much damage to all of these players that this is not going to be a point scored just yet for G2.
And this is going to be a weird scenario, too, where all these players, both sides seem to be spawning all the way across near Tram, whether they're spawning over near driveway side or in Tram. And so there's just kind of these two separate battles going on. A couple players near PD side, couple players near Tram side, and they have to decide as they're spawning, do I just kill these reinforcements here, or do I sprint across the map and try to avoid this fight?
A lot of decisions to be made, and they're all split-second decisions as well. If you make one wrong, you better believe the other team is going to capitalize on them. Bound still alive at the back of the hill. And even though G2 scored a lot of points, this is exactly what we saw in the first hill as well.
Yeah, and look at the slight difference in setup. You have Bound, someone ready to go over towards top tower if needing to help in the bottom center, but then also able to back down if players are coming over towards Cafe. So it seems like Cloud9 had a decent spread out for the setup, but it all comes down to kills. You're going to be in the perfect position at the perfect time, but if you're not hitting the shots or getting outshot, it does not matter.
Sometimes it's as simple as that. Hit your shots, win your pivs, as Gilkey has been able to worm his way through to back tower here, unawares to Eco, and will also get a really good nade onto Bound and gets the kill because of it. And now will allow the rest of the team just to push up over towards this pink side. StelluR and Pznguin going to take the fight together. Gilkey still gets the kill though, and that's so important. And his team is spawning back tower. This is going to be a tough one to hold.
That is going to be so difficult for G2, despite that individual effort from Gilkey. Taking out a player in a 1v2 cannot be overstated how important that is, or how big of a play that is, especially when he was kind of out in the open. He had no chance to back down there. He was just trying to do a little bit of a head glitch and get the shots in.
Well, despite the fact that there were so many points scored by G2, it's Cloud9 who are still in the ascendancy here. Let's take a look at how their communications are with an Astro. Listen in.
Nice. One tower. I'm looking tower.
That's Nesca.
I'm watching over you.
Watch out.
Shit, guys.
I'm going one disruptor.
Okay, hurt. I have stalker.
We should go B rail if we can. We should go B rail if we can.
No, there's two B side.
Yeah, I'm watching dead end free.
Yeah, they're gonna push now.
I'm getting out of hill. I'm watching cross.
Yeah, go into the side.
Two shots. Nice. You dead.
There's another one here, I think.
I'm looking at you, kind of.
Keep watching cross, man.
Back up.
One shot, planners, Sab. Sitting in the corner, planners going tires now.
Yeah, killed me. There's
They're gonna be C.
One shot tires. Two planners. One shot tires.
One shot tires. Shot's on my X7.
It'd be PD.
I'm gonna hide. I heard you. See stairs, let me go stalker.
One shot and PD.
Did he say he was sitting in a corner, or... Never mind, it doesn't matter anyway, because about the fourth point is so close to being scored, but Bound, the last remaining player. It's a 1v1 though with straight sick. Bound gets the kill, it's a double, and it should be enough to get the point as well and secure this game for Cloud9. It's a great start to this series. C9 look like they are hot off the press.
Just like that, a 4-0 victory. Yes, that hill over in front of A was arguably G2's, especially off the start of it, but somehow Cloud9 bringing that back, like you said, sitting in the corner of that hill, gathering the rest of that time, and just securing that win.
Securing the win in an emphatic fashion. Unfortunately, G2, they just weren't really able to get going, and considering I said at the start, you know, Cloud9, they struggle to sometimes set up in this mapping mode. That is very evidently wrong. They have very much practiced, they have changed, they have developed since we saw them on this mapping mode in Pro Series, and that is a good sign for Cloud9 fans and for this roster and their chances of progressing in this tournament. As we do look at the stats though, plenty of kills to go around for the C9 boys. On the other side for G2, it's not their finest day.
No, but also just so difficult when Cloud9 are in control, 75% of that match. They also did such a good job, taking a quick look at the damage though, they did such a good job just sticking two people in the hill almost every single time. You could never just isolate a 1v1 there. But taking a look at the damage we are seeing, all these members of Cloud9, 3,600 plus, and all within range, 3,600 to basically 4,000 damage for every single player. So everyone putting up huge numbers across the board.
And I did enjoy that brief listening as well as we take the back in and look at some of the highlights of this game. It was on the call movements. It was, I think we should be taking B rail here. Oh, no, wait, we don't need to. Let's focus on this corner instead. Let's take this fight instead. It was constantly adapting to what the other team was doing. This is something that Optic have been very good at, adjusting to their enemy's playstyle. And I do think that Cloud9 really were developing as the game went on and adjusting to how G2 were approaching their game. But it was a comfortable one, and I think that's good sign for Cloud9 when you look at how they should be one of the top teams in this tournament. As for G2 and their chances in this series, you do start to doubt it a little bit after a dominating performance like that.
You do, and Cloud9 just sounded so comfortable. Like you said, those differences in communications when we go to listen in and you hear a team just saying, we should take over this area, let's plan on getting B rail, versus like the times you go listen to someone's one shot or I'm going here. It's like, yeah, you're calling out what you're doing. How are you coordinating with your team instead of saying, I'm going here to take over B rail? And so you just notice that level of coordination is just a step above.
Game 2 is going to be Aquarius StelluR, and I love watching Cloud9 on Aquarius StelluR. Most particularly is going to be Stella. I really want to keep a keen eye on him. The way he patrols around the map on StelluR Aquarius, just listening to callouts, finishing kills. At times it feels like he's playing free-for-all, and I feel like I've said that a lot about many players throughout Halo's history, but StelluR really does play that kind of pistola effect that we used to see back in Halo 2, Halo 3, and now here on StelluR Aquarius, maybe he can do something similar. But G2 have been good in StelluR so far this tournament, so I think this is their real chance to try and get back in this series.
Yeah, they need to win this one here to give themselves a strong opportunity to come back in the series. I mean, tournament life's on the line. You don't have this luxury of, you know, losing a series and be like, all right, we'll just shake it off and figure out later. Like, no, it's now or never. They need to pick it up right now. G2 do not want to put themselves in a position where they have to somehow reverse sweep Cloud9.
And I think G2 have to just look at that game 1 to a similar way to how you assessed it when we saw that series lower. It's streets. Cloud9 have always been good at streets. Doesn't matter what the mapping mode is. They're so quick at rotating around, so quick at supporting one another. Just chalk it off. Say, all right, it's a good game type for them. It's a bad game type for us. We move on to StelluR Aquarius. And now G2, they need to pick it up. We need the barcode effect. We need him doing a shoey in the back and giving some confidence to the rest of the team at this point, because they need something. After a 4-0, very difficult to try and build any momentum as a team. I mean, you may not have taken that heavy losses in round 1 and map 1 in your history, Dave, but you must have taken losses back in the day where you've really just had to sit down with a team and say, hey, how on earth do we get back here? Let's just focus on our momentum here.
It's always going to be focused on the future. You can't say, oh, we should have been doing this. Instead, it's those fine-tuned saying, all right, Aquarius StelluR, how are we securing this first camo? Who's going where? Just making sure that you're just dialed into that next game. You can't be looking back and saying, oh, why weren't we doing this on that hill in front of A? It's always got to be forward thinking. You retroactively look after the series. That's when you can break down and make adjustments. But each game is so different from the other. You know, your mindset and how aggressive and how fast you're playing on something like King of the Hill or Strongholds is drastically different than StelluR. In fact, right here, they can say, all right, we get to play at our own pace. Like, maybe we're a little uncomfortable trying to stop that objective. Take our time, take each death seriously, don't give up any free or easy kills, and all those little advantages that we gain are going to add up in the long run.
And one of the biggest differences that we see, of course, going from Streets to Aquarius is we have a power-up now. Even though there was focuses, there was power weapons to focus on in Streets, we've got that camouflage top middle, which of course is going to make a massive difference depending on who can focus on it. I do think Cloud9 have typically this tournament shown they are stronger at preparing for those power-ups and grabbing those power-ups, but if we do see G2 constantly getting that camouflage, constantly getting behind enemy lines, they do have a real chance to win this one, right?
Yeah, I feel like at this point it's like, yeah, you got heat wave, but I'm almost like camo and dynamo grenades. Holding those dynamo grenades are going to be so powerful here on Aquarius because you can start to get those clear outs whenever you push towards utility or even any of the bases if you want to charge in. Just throw that down, you see the electricity go in each direction. It's like, all right, someone there, and they're all weak and not happy.
I think there's two players I want to look at going into this one. We've got StelluR, who I've already spoken about, and then Gilkey on G2. I want to see what Gilkey can do now as we go into Aquarius, we go into StelluR. Gilkey has been this guy who always manages to pop off when you least expect it for the G2 roster. When you need someone to lift this team in a series where they've just got kind of slapped around in map number 1, Gilkey's the guy who I'm going to be focusing on. Aquarius StelluR is going to be a difficult time if one team gets a lot of control in the early stages, though.
Are you focusing on it, though? Are you expecting it? Because if you're expecting it, he's not going to do it. Like you said, when you least expect it.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it. It's just, he might do it, but we'll see whether Gilkey can be the guy, and we're starting off with his POV as well. Barcode's already got one. Eco replies with one of his own, so it is a direct trade out. There is an even playing field, but as I say that, G2 have managed to get another kill here.
Direct trade out, but however, anytime you see your teammate secure that kill first and then go down shortly after, generally they can secure a little bit more damage afterwards. So in a case like that, what I just saw on the kill feed is that Barcode got a kill, got a little damage on another player, and it's calling that player out.
Pznguin was able to secure the camouflage during that passage of play, though. trying to be sneaky, does get spotted out. Did his teammate give it away? That's the real question. I feel like he got caught in the crossfire, but now he can reposition and try and do some extra damage to any players who may have lost their shields. Barcode's going to be the first target, but great awareness from G2 just to be prepared for it. But here comes the cleanup crew. It was StelluR, does get taken out. 6-5 in the early stages, very back and forth between these two teams already.
Yeah, there's nothing worse when you have camo than somebody else kind of like hanging out right next to you, trying to go in the same direction. They're like, yeah, where are we going after this? Like, what do you mean we? I'm heading out this way. You go your own path, and we go our separate ways here from the night on.
I mean, it sounds similar to when me and Clutch go for dinner, and then I never really know where he's going to end up afterwards. I go back to the hotel room as a responsible adult. You never know what Wes Clutch is going to get up to in the nights here in Columbus. But StelluR is going to be having the dynamo grenades to try and stay alive. And actually, the damage was enough to push Sab back, and that's how effective the dynamos are there.
Yeah, that dynamo power, and just like that, Sab has been at one shot for so long, somehow able to get that first kill against Bound, and fearlessly charging across the map. Instead of getting confined over the utility side, wants to give his team some more angles. Pznguin has to look behind enemy lines, has to look behind his team to try to find where Sab is. And because of that great charge by Sab, look at that. 3 members down for Cloud9, all because they couldn't just confine them in a quadrant of the map.
I mean, he was one shot for so long, I thought it was an audio bug for a second, but it's not. He was still getting shot, he was still getting taken down, and you know what? We focused Gilkey. We said he can be the guy to pop off where he's on a killing spree now. He is finally making a difference, but as I say that, just tries to slide away and gets quickly sent back to the respawn screen. It is 18-12 though, a 6-kill lead here for G2. The perfect start for them to try and get back into this series.
That's a very convincing start here. So what G2 need to do is not get too overzealous. Don't give up all these deaths, get in some sort of spawn trap. You have to slow it down a little bit. But unfortunately, it seems like G2 are starting to get staggered by a little kill here or there as they're not sitting at all 4 alive. And that lead diminished real quick. A 6-kill lead when there's only 18 kills on your team is massive.
And when that lead does disappear very quickly, it can really change how the communication is going. So I think it's the perfect time to jump into an Astro listening with G2.
You want to beat this?
Yeah, he's one shot, Eco.
Both one.
Nice.
StelluR's weak there as well.
Yeah, he's on our fridge as well, one shot. He's one shot our fridge,
Watch out the nades, guys. Pznguin, I need help. Pznguin on the nades. Watch out, guys. Behind me, I'm dying.
Still blue
Front blue
fridge.
weak, front blue weak. StelluR, on the car jump or something.
Nice. P2.
I hear that. I'm going...
I'm pushing into red.
Yeah, just we should run away. I'm getting the red flag. Call one killing me, I might die.
Yeah, that.
P1 weak, Pznguin.
I'm here, Corey.
I'm stuck, guys. P1 weak, Pznguin.
We spawn red.
I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
They're calling for me.
One shot, dead.
Above me, I think. I can't. I hear someone above me.
He's gone car jump running out. He's weak on red car jump. And this guy car 3 as well. Two car 3. Nice.
I'm with you, Sab. I'm with you, Sab. Call one. Two on it. He's on the nades. On the nades. One shot. Call one. StelluR. Help me. Call one. StelluR. Watch on the nades.
This guy in car 3 tunnel. He's one shot bottom car.
Nice.
The last 2 car side. I'm moving. He's bottom mid.
Watch the inside on me.
Eco. He's.
Car 3 weak bound. Red side car 3 1 hit bound. Watch out for you. One bullet.
Camera, guys.
Two there. On the nades. 2 on the nades.
Yeah, I got shots on car 1. Car 1, StelluR.
I'm getting weak. All right.
I'm moving red. Yeah, I'm looking car 3. He's still.
Guys, blue Peter on me, guys.
Yeah, can't look at Sab. Play for this rest. There's a good flag.
2 on me, I need help.
Yeah, that, Corey. He's one shot, Corey.
StelluR.
Dead.
Nice. Where's P-jump? P2.
Yeah, that. Camera, guys. I'm looking P2.
P2 weak. Watch out,
He's absolutely. I got camera, guys. I'm getting shot from car 3.
Guys.
I got camera.
P1. I got a belly.
Well, that was a very different listening to what we heard earlier from C9. I might need some aspirin after that one. I've got a little bit of a headache from all of the callouts that we're going through, but they are still ahead. They do still have a 5-kill lead here, Dave.
Yeah, you just noticed that difference, though. I even kind of highlighted before we went to that listening with G2 that there's a lot more individual calls. Something like, help me, I'm going here. One person, one shot here. Whereas when you went on Cloud9 side, they're saying, let's get rails. Let's stay in hill. Like, they're kind of saying, here is our goal and objective. Take whatever route or path you need to go to support there and make that happen. But obviously, both have different advantages and disadvantages to it, but overall, I feel like Cloud9 and that more stoic playstyle, or sorry, stoic callouts are beneficial in the long run. Certain times when your team's on fire and you're getting emotional and you're calling out where these one-shots are, that goes well, but it's not as consistent. And that's why sometimes we'll see some of those shaky moments here with G2.
Well, at the moment, even despite the difference in callouts, G2 do still have a lead. It's only by 3, though. Every time that G2 seem to separate themselves enough, Cloud9 come right back into it and get some big kills. Straight6 looking to try and capitalize off the heatwave damage, but look how all 4 members are stuck here in the flag.
And I also heard a dynamo grenade crackling in the back of that base. But somehow G2 able to fight their way out and get all 4 members of Cloud9 down. That should not happen. The reason it shouldn't happen is members of G2 have no angles to finish off kills if they get someone from weak from Cloud9 and they're just running out front. But instead, Cloud9 committed to a short, close-range battle in the back of the base, and at that point, it's a coin flip. You're all back there. You all have the same disadvantage of having no angles.
And G2, even though all 4 of them are together again and they were all very weak again, they managed to back off and find a Pznguin on their own. So now, 41 to 36, a 5-kill lead. Bound will get 1 back. And one thing we know about Cloud9, about Optic, about Sentinels, is they are very good when it comes to these final moments in the games. G2 need to shut this one out. They cannot afford to let Cloud9 back into the game. Barcode, though, has the camouflage, gets the damage onto StelluR, gets the assist as well. Trying to escape. Dynamo grenades are flashing through him, though. And still, assists coming through. Still kills coming on board for G2. They are still scoring here.
One thing that's been great for G2 is even though they've had their lead diminish here and there, they've consistently held around that 5-kill lead since the beginning of this game. Yes, they'd go down to closer to even, and then they'd extend that back again. But that's sometimes how the waves go here in Team Slayer game. You can't expect just consistently out-Slayer roster at Cloud9. There's going to be times where you have 2 or 3 members going down, but you just got to make sure that they don't snowball that lead too hard.
Pznguin is the next to go down. Eco is also weak here as well. The 49th kill is put onto the board, and suddenly G2 and the momentum they may have lost in map number 1 has very much been revived here in game number 2. This has been a standout performance from the G2 squad. They get the last kill, and who else but Gilkey? It's 12 kills for him, but it's Sab who had a 20 bomb in that game to really propel this G2 roster into a victory.
Such a big game by Sab. And you highlight right there that every single player picking up their part, doing everything they could there. One thing that was also really impressive to me was just the hesitancy to charge in by Straight6 at the end. Yes, they had like a 49 to 42 lead, but he says, I'm not just going to give them this kill. I'm not going to give them any sort of chance to get back in this game just so I can have the glory of getting the 50th kill. Instead, he's wisely backing down. So even though someone like Straight6 didn't put the most kills on the board, he also had least deaths. Now, I'm interested to see his damage here after we break down these kills.
Staying alive is so important in Slayer. We know that, and it's just a fact of history nowadays with Halo games, and I think we noticed that in some of the listenings where Straight6 was like, I'm here, they might push me, help me, they're above me, and he was constantly worried, he was constantly scared, but it worked out because he only died 8 times. But Sab was the one who put 4.8k damage on the board, and boy did G2 need that in this series.
Yeah, that was a huge performance by Sab, and exactly what you need, especially if you're kind of an underdog in a series. Yes, G2 and Cloud9 are pretty closely matched, but clearly over the course of Halo Infinite thus far, Cloud9 have been the ones winning tournaments, getting really close to the top, and G2 have been a slight step behind. But right there is exactly what you need to close those gaps. At some point, you need some individuals to step it up, someone to drop a 20 bomb, and bring this to a tie series.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you look at these teams and you look at the fact that G2 constantly had that 4 to 5 kill lead throughout the entire game. They never let Cloud9 close the gap to round 2 or 3 in those late stages, and that's what's important because Cloud9 never were given that opportunity to slow down the game and try and play it a bit more methodical and strategical. Instead, G2 were constantly upping the pace, they were constantly able to push up on their advantage, and even the one time when G2 were kind of stuck in their flag, stuck in their base, they still got the kills defensively. They saved their nades, they banked them off the doorways, and I think Cloud9 perhaps were too eager to push in that scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one really kind of showed how Cloud9 were getting a little outclassed, or they're being a little too aggressive in a situation where they had the positional advantage. They didn't have to charge in immediately, and so they found maybe their slight opening, charged right in, and just lost that engagement. And it's one of those times where it's like, all right, well, where's maybe your top center person laying down some shots? Are they charging in before grenades are all popping off? Maybe G2 did a fantastic job of not panic throwing those grenades and saying, wait until we see one of their first people coming through, and then chuck your grenades. Cut off any reinforcements, make them one shot.
I do think individually G2 have gone from strength to strength every tournament we see them, and now they have a real shot in this series. If they had gone 2-0 down, I'd be writing them off and I'd say I think this is over, I think this is done, but now you gain that confidence and you go into Oddball Recharge, that even though it is going to be a very difficult task because we're back to objective, you have that little bit of momentum now in this game type, and maybe you've been able to kill off some of the confidence that Cloud9 would have been holding going into this one. Do you think, though, that the fact this is a very setup-heavy game type, similarly to what we see sometimes with Streets Oddball as well, that this benefits Cloud9 rather than G2?
A bit, because think about how Cloud9 are coordinating across the map. They're going to set a goal somewhere across and say, we need to get control of gold or pipes. And they're going to take their own individual routes or supporting areas to help that goal. Whereas in the G2 comp, it's going to be something like, hey, I'm heading towards pipes. If you guys want to link up there later, let me know. There's a different level of coordination and goal setting that they have in their comms, and I think that is going to benefit Cloud9. And the one thing I will say that G2 has going on for them, though, Sab is on fire.
Yeah.
You need to ride those momentum waves when somebody is playing incredibly well. So in a case like this, doesn't matter what member you are of G2, anyone except Sab, if I have the ball, if Sab has the ball, I'm like, give me that ball. You keep doing what you're doing. If someone is on fire, let them go on fire.
Have to recognize it. Someone has to make that call for sure. And I think you're right with the call-outs. Maybe in a StelluR, it can benefit with the one shot on me, one's above me, I need help, because it's just focusing on kills in a StelluR. But when it does come to the objective work, especially with Oddball, it's constant rotations. It's constant, where can I get this ball? Where can we put this ball so that we can get some time on the board? And as Halo Infinite has developed, Oddball has become less like, let's score 100 points in one setup, and more, let's keep moving this ball away from the other team, play it if we have to, and then we will reset up later once we've got some slays on the board. But it is tied up 1-1 in this series. Remember, this is the elimination bracket. This is for top 4. Loser will finish at top 6, which, don't get me wrong, is still a fantastic placement, but maybe more so on the side of Cloud9. There's the expectations of getting to top 4. Sab, though, starting how he ended in the previous game.
Yeah, what a brilliant dodge in that first grenade, and I also thought he got damage on the second player. But either way, great trade-outs. Unfortunately, though, for G2, StelluR has the camo. Let's see what he can do with this power-up. Overall, throughout this tournament, I feel like I've seen camo be relatively ineffective. So let's see how someone like StelluR plays this one out.
Yeah, only a few times has it really made a true effect and really made big plays. Often we'll see the camouflage get a couple of kills, but maybe letting the ball resets or they go down and the rest of the team has fallen. And again, StelluR doesn't feel like he can do much with the camouflage, so he has to just pick up the ball, and because of it, he's given his position away, and now he's stuck in no man's land, stuck in batteries, and eventually gets shut down.
Yeah, just gets taken out, realizes that his camo is just about to run out, and just says, I can't find anyone to fight. Maybe try to rotate this ball, since my teammate's going over in pipes, but ultimately, you know, he got a kill, but I didn't feel like that was super effective.
This is a brave push from Gilkey. Finds the plasma pistol, and we're able to quickly whip away those shields of anyone he approaches, but the audio cue would have given him away, you'd think, but somehow still has the jump on StelluR, and somehow the player that was close to him isn't even anywhere near him now. Okay, there he is. It was Eco, and he still gets the kill. It's a double, and Gilkey has done his job.
Huge reversal there, and I like that checking out of the stairs first before the gold balcony. StelluR's lulled into this false sense of security where he says, I'm going to come long haul, and then clearly I'm going to be fine. There's nobody at these stairs. Otherwise, my teammate Eco would be receiving some damage. So because of that order of operations and which directions he checked, that's how Gilkey was able to catch someone off guard and get a second kill.
Just a victim of timing, which we see time and time again in Halo esports. His Barcode against Bound, and it's going to have the Disruptor in hand to do the initial damage, and even though the plasma pistol did come out, it wasn't going to help him out to get the kill initially, but does get the assist and will eventually fall. That next camouflage, when it pops, if anyone can get hold of it to really try and get away, it's going to be tough because there's so much commotion happening in the middle of the map at the moment. Barcode, the last remaining player, but he is still doing damage. Very impressive from Barcode to still do so, but Bound just able to scarper away with this camo. Can he get the jump? Yes, he can.
Yeah, that's going to be Bound getting with a camo. Pznguin helping finish off Barcode down there. And we are going to be seeing one of the first steps of the game about 2 to 3 minutes into the game, though, because that beginning start was just slays back and forth. Both these teams realizing no point in scrapping this ball up, running it somewhere, and just giving the other team a setup.
But even though the setup was there, you still have to be aware of your surroundings, and Cloud9 know just that. They moved over towards blue, so they can play this ball if things get a little bit too hot and heavy for them. Sab is going to be the first member in E-Contacts, and StelluR gets sent into the deep end, and now, unfortunately, the rest of the team are going to also lose their lives. Pznguin is the last remaining player, trying to do what he can in control. All 4 dead for Cloud9. A fantastic push from G2.
Yeah, fantastic push from G2. You got to question the Pznguin push at the end. However, it's really not that risky of a play he either has to run away and wait for his teammates to spawn, or says, you know what, if I'm going to try and make something happen, make it happen right now so that I spawn in the same cycle as his teammates. So there he is, Pznguin there, doing the push for the rest of his team. All 4 get taken down, so that's 2 pushes from Cloud9 getting shut down back-to-back.
And maybe Cloud9 not expecting such a successful push, because they could have played that ball a lot earlier, and maybe they'll be kicking themselves a little bit that they didn't if we see a lot of time gathered here by G2, and maybe even too much already gathered in the grand scheme of things. Bound will fall to straight sick after he got the initial kill. Pznguin going to take the fight as well, and he will actually win it. 3 members get the kills, all 4 down for G2, and again, that ball still not played.
That's one odd thing that we've been seeing throughout this tournament so far, is that there is a lot fewer play balls. It feels like in the past tournaments, we were seeing teams maybe played a little too early, and like before they had to commit as many resources over towards C and get all the way in that corner, they would, maybe play it too early, and the other team's like, sweet, we don't got to push over there anymore. We're just going to go in the center and grab that ball. But here we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing people overcorrect and teams overcorrect by not playing the ball. And we've seen, I want to say, 5 to 10 different times where I'm like, that could have been a really good play ball, and instead it turns into a setup for the opposing roster.
Although, ironically, just as you were saying that, Pznguin played the ball a little bit too early, and where they could have got about 15 seconds, he played it, and now they have to fight again for it. It's a very difficult thing to try and juggle. It's a very fine line that you're dancing on. Bound's going to get caught off guard by Barcode. 2 members are down, though, on the side of Cloud9. Barcode has the shock rifle as well. He gets the double kill, gets a sword as a reward, and Barcode starts to look for more. It could be a triple, will be a triple. Where's that overkill? It's going to be a little bit too long, but still, Barcode showing why he is such an important factor on this team.
And Barcode also has to be questioned a little bit, where he's just saying, I got a triple, and took out the ball carriers the 4th. Like, where is some of this extra support? But maybe it was one of the unfortunate circumstances where his teammates were kind of getting picked off a little bit right before each of those engagements. But sometimes hard just not to feel that either way. When you're like, I got a triple, how is this person holding ball over in the batteries? It's a defeating feeling.
Those are those frustrating questions, those frustrating thoughts that can sometimes really deflate you, that's for sure. So you've just got to try and focus on the good things. And the good things is that you've got the ball now for G2. 34 points on the board, 1 minute left on the clock. StelluR, though, has the sword, and Cloud9 are going to look to try and make a push because they've already taken down 2. It's a 4 versus 2, make it a 3 versus 2. StelluR still getting aggressive, will take Barcode as his next victim, and Sab, the last remaining player, over towards Turbine. If he goes down, this is going to be tough.
Look at what StelluR's doing around those grenades. He's just distancing himself so perfectly from them, which is difficult, especially online. But the whole thing is his timing and his spacing is what's allowing him to actually get close enough to use that sword. Many players, they throw that grenade and they say, all right, I'm safe for 1.5 seconds here from this direction. But the fact that StelluR comes flying in either right before or after that grenade throws their timing off just slightly, because players aren't used to somebody charging around those explosions perfectly.
Well, how do Cloud9 play this one? They have an 11-second lead, and there's 11 seconds left on the clock. G2 have to touch the ball. Cloud9 cannot afford, though, to go down. Ball gets grabbed, ball gets tossed into pipes, but Cloud9 are there, and they say, okay, thank you very much. We'll get the kill. 3 are dead on the side of G2, and at this point, you just drop the ball, surely. You get the kill onto Sab, and then it should be the round going in your favor, and it will. Cloud9 take round 1 here on Oddball Recharge.
And what a slay-heavy match. We didn't really see, we saw 4 points on the board within the first 2 minutes, just meaning that those teams back and forth slaying, just understand that, all right, as long as we have some presence on the map or don't let them get a full setup, we don't need to force this ball.
So it goes down to time, as have many games already this tournament in Oddball. It's difficult to separate these teams. No one really able to get a true setup, and also some interesting play balls or not play balls. StelluR has the camouflage, finds Gilkey. And 2 members have gone down on Cloud9, so there's a lot to do here for StelluR.
StelluR also had a lot of left trigger discipline. I know as soon as that player hid behind the pillar, I would be chucking that plasma grenade, but StelluR just a step ahead of the competition, realizing, like, I'm going to need that grenade later. So let's see if he ends up using that plasma in a little bit and if it ended up being the correct play.
Oh, we definitely know how important those grenades can be. Still has it, by the way. Never mind. He could have used it, Dave. It's, hindsight 2020 and all that, but he could have used it, Dave.
He passed it to his teammate. Let's see if he uses it, though. All right, we will go over to somebody else. We're going to keep an eye on that plasma grenade later. We will keep an eye on it.
We'll tell the story of the lonely plasma grenade. And actually, you can get plasma grenade as a weapon charm if you watch the grand final as well, I believe. So there you go. The Bound Situation now is that he has at least the ball in pipes, has support as well from the rest of the team. Pznguin went down a little bit earlier, so you can see why Bound is rotating now, because they know they're in a 4 versus 3, but now that Pznguin is respawned, they can take that advantage because the kills are going their way. Bound gets a kill, Straight Sick is the last, and it's a double for Bound. It's all 4 dead, it's more ball time for C9.
And this is so huge. This is going to allow C9 to spread out across the map, and look at this Eco taking one of the most strong positions on the map when you have this up over at gold. That gold position across the map is so powerful because anytime these members from G2 are charging across over towards elevator, they go in one of these exposed catwalks, either above or below. And Eco/StelluR can lay those shots across the map without any damage being returned if they're over at top gold. And look at this.
Still has it.
I was just gonna say, G2, they're split up now. They're trying to fight StelluR over on the opposite side of the map while this ball's here, and now they got a couple of these kills. They can actually rotate it over, and StelluR can go meet them over through hallway if need be.
Could have been very different if Bound had stayed alive. Now Straight Sick and the Needler doing it just for Walshy. Manages to get one, no more to follow. 3 versus 3. Pznguin is going to have to get aggressive onto Gilkey. Will do so, but Gilkey gets the kill. Sab follows up, and it's some really impressive slays from G2, but it is not enough to take down. Or is it? Barcode, the last remaining player, will just flood in, finish off the pieces, and now they can potentially get some ball time here.
Yeah, but they're taking a little longer to grab that. You saw them hesitant, just throwing grenades, assuming where they knew the last player was at. They decided to bring this over towards the elevator setup, where Cloud9 had a strong lead by holding it, but 2 members down. You can't hold elevator setup if you are too far down in numbers. You just get cornered in that spot. In fact, it looks like Cloud9 are going to take that ball and run on over towards Hydro.
StelluR was trying to get aggressive with the sword, but quickly did a U-turn, but unfortunately because he showed himself, the sword will go down and it will give G2 the opportunity to push now. Barcode with a shock, and they've got the sword. Barcode just needs to stay alive, and actually the grenade does the damage in the end. Great movement, great grenade.
And look at this, pretty much any setup that Cloud9 has, they have somebody golden going here near gold/pipes. It's just such a powerful position that you shut down the entire center of the map. Anytime someone's run across the center near batteries or pit or any of those catwalks, that player's a nuisance that you can't deal with in any easy fashion. You have to run all the way over there, and then even once you run over there, it's kind of this close quarter 1v1 that's kind of a coin flip.
Cloud9 have done very well just to spread themselves across the map and be watching the correct angles all game long. It's been so tough for G2. G2 did get the ball away and were scoring temporarily, but then Cloud9 come flooding back in. Camouflage going to be popping in 3 seconds. Barcode is scoring though. And can they hold off Bound? Can they stop Bound from being able to get close distance with this sword? Because we know how deadly it can be. Barcode with the grenades. Can he get it? Yes, he can. What a huge kill that could be with G2's setup to try and score some time here.
Yeah, Barcode staying alive there. Also Straight Sick with this camo. We're going to have to see how they secure these members of how they secure these kills on members of Cloud9. That's going to be StelluR going down. 2 members near C Plat, and that's going to be Bound in the center of the map. Now, 2 went down for G2. They can't do a great rotation here. They need to drop this ball out and slay, but is it too late? Barcode going in and getting the slice and dice over on Bound. That's a huge kill, which is going to disallow Cloud9 from getting a full setup.
I'm in a terrifying sight when Barcode is sprinting towards you, both in real life and in Halo Infinite. Here he comes again, it's scary! You got to take him down and he will fall, and the sword now is not going to be in use, and instead Gilkey going to try and follow up, but he also gets taken out by Bound, and now Eco and Cloud9 can push up, get some ball time, and really is some incredible.
And you saw Straight Sick with that stick. I had been following that plasma grenade all the long time when I was over at the long haul, and that's where it came about. So as you can tell, just a great foresight from me as to why StelluR did not throw that plasma grenade, because it was going to get stuck on somebody.
Amazing stuff from StelluR to have that kind of foresight.
Yeah.
And of course, Dave, for you calling it expert analysis as always.
It's a gift and a curse sometimes, just seeing too far in the future.
Too far indeed. There are things that we maybe don't cross the road on certain days. It's thanks to you, but it is good kills coming out from Bound. It's going to be a double kill, and this should stop G2 from being able to score because Pznguin grabs the ball. 1 minute 35 left on the clock. 2 members are still down for G2, so they are waiting patiently for their push. And look at that from Bound. He tries to run away because he knew full well the sword was going to be there.
Yeah, he was not going to climb away fast enough there. As fast as he wanted to, as fast as he was climbing. But still, the same strategy applies. You are consistently seeing Cloud9 get a setup with the ball somewhere across the map and having someone near that gold/glass/pipes area. It's just such a strong supporting position when you have the setup. Now the downside happens is if somehow they slide by and get your ball carrier, at that point you're all the way across the map, and what, you're going to do damage to someone that no one can finish off? Doesn't help.
There was almost as many slashes as the sword slashes in this game there, Dave. Gold/pipes. I don't want to have any games where I have call-outs with you. He's in gold/pipes/ whatever at this point. But we are seeing now G2 scoring. They are really putting some points on the board to try and get back into this round. And remember, get back into this map. They're already 1-0 down. Nice little push, but it is going to be Cloud9 coming out the better half of it. And with only 1 minute left on the clock, we could see Cloud9 do something similar they did before. Wrestle a little bit of that ball control, and then if they have to, just drop and slay.
That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to hold on to this until they're threatened, until they lose a little bit of control. Then they're going to drop and slay and let that time waste out. And here it is, Pznguin trying to get the ball out to the center of the map. He gets a trade on straight stick, gets the ball down over at the stairs, but Gilkey's going to be able to run up those stairs, run up that hill, and get away with the ball.
Nice. 90 to 60. 40 seconds left. Could have been so different if Bound could have got that kill onto Gilkey from across the map, and he's still trying to, but it's Pznguin with the grenades, and now there's no one else in that vicinity to grab the ball for G2. They were hoping those grenades would not connect. Straight Sick is going to be the next player to potentially get it, but G2 have to act fast because of that clock at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, they don't want to put themselves in that desperate final push at the end. And here's kind of one of those situations I was talking about before where Gilkey's isolated over at the elevator, doing damage to where nobody can finish off. That's going to be Sab trying to toss the ball out, and right here it's an either or. Now that it's less than 10 seconds, the better strategy is let the game clock go out, and that's exactly what Cloud9 are going to do.
Barcode swoops in, it's the last-ditch attempt, but he gets absolutely destroyed out of the sky, and it is going to be Cloud9 taking this one 2-0. It's another objective game going in favor of the boys in blue. And for G2, they gave it a good effort, Walsh, and they were a lot closer than maybe some would have expected, but unfortunately not close enough to take the game.
Also, one thing I've just noticed in that coordination from Cloud9 on the end game victory poses. Everyone just saluting here from Cloud9, saying, good game, Spartans. See you on the battlefield next time.
Also, how sweaty are we seeing these skins? We don't see the Cloud9 skins. No, we're seeing camouflage skins to make sure they can't be seen as much on the map. I see what you're doing, Cloud9. Very, very clever. Or maybe they're paying homage to Texas, which is where they currently reside after they flew out, of course, for this Super. But looking at these stats, it was Bound with 31 kills, Dave.
Also, looking at Sab with 28 kills, being on the team that lost there and still going off and putting up big numbers. I'm telling you right now, Sab is on fire. We're going to have to check out his POV a little bit more in this game number 4, but just doing so much work throughout both those last 2 games. One thing I also want to highlight with Bound is, like you said, most kills. Didn't have most damage, but most kills. He's starting to maybe get more comfortable in filling that role here that Renegade used to have on the Cloud9 roster. They used to enable him so well.
I do think he's the perfect fit, Dave. Like, honestly, when you try and fit into someone's shoes like Renegade, there's not many players who can do that, especially as successfully as Bound has been doing. But certainly, he has been stepping up to the plate, and he's been performing in such a way that he does not look out of place whatsoever. As we look back at some of the replays, we've got to say it was a good effort from G2, and maybe that is in part thanks to how many kills Sab was able to get. One thing that's very exciting, though, Dave, is this kind of 4th through maybe 6th, if not further, down towards the top 8. Going into Orlando, there are so many teams that are close, so many teams that could be breaking top 4, could even maybe break into that top 3.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten so much more competitive there in that middle of the pack. My only concern is that middle of the pack closer or further away from the top?
Yes, that's always the worry when you see changes. Like, is it going to hurt you that little bit extra than those teams who are at the very top, who haven't made the changes that can lock on for longer? Certainly Optic and Sentinels at the moment sitting in the winners finals maybe feel that way watching Cloud9 play in the elimination quarters. But if Cloud9 can still work their way through this elimination bracket, then they could still have the last laugh with their new roster. Speaking of last laughs, Catalyst Capture the Flag is where I'm going to be laughing throughout this one, because honestly, Dave, I still don't get it. Catalyst, I still haven't wrapped my head around it, and I think a lot of pros are feeling the same way. Such a difficult game and map to try and navigate. Capture the flag better than StelluR, I will say, but this is certainly going to be an enjoyable one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if we were having some difficulty with G2 callouts on Aquarius or on someone stand up above me, someone right next to me, that is not going to fly here on Catalyst. But the one thing that I've learned a bit on Catalyst, I got to sit down with one of my friends, Lunchbox, and I was like, help me get a better understanding of kind of the pro level strategy of this and where things are at. And he was just explaining that there's so many times that it feels like you got to cap back at your base, that like the flag's back at our base, this one's gonna be easy to put in, but teams are still just able to contest it. They're able to fly all the way across the map, you know, through Car, Pink Side, or Ivy, or Overgrowth, whichever one you want to call it. They fly through the map and they get a second chance at stopping that flag, and so you can't take it for granted once you get it back to your base.
I was also watching Pznguin stream a couple of weeks ago as well. Actually, maybe a little bit longer than a couple of weeks ago. Time does fly, but he was saying a lot of teams, they just overextend. They overextend when they spawn. And he was really saying that you have to come back. You have to be fighting in your base when you have that opportunity to do so. Don't just give up that flag run too easily for an overextension. Otherwise, you're taking the same fight, but in the opposition base, and if you lose, they are guaranteed the cap. You can almost take 2 fights if you go back to your base first.
That's a really strong point. Yeah, there's so many times where people have had it ingrained, and it's just kind of a rule of thumb that, hey, when in doubt, if we already don't have a stronghold on our base, like, let's just push out and fight another fight. But here, like you said, you aren't as invulnerable of positions. You can poke out through one of the hallways, get some poke shots, and put some damage and delay that flag.
Also, I love how you have Lunchbox as a friend, I have KotH as a friend. It's not really fair, but that's where the analysis comes from. But I guess, you know, KotH helping develop the game, it does help out in some ways. Right. Game number 4, 2-1 lead for Cloud9 in the series. G2 need to strike back once again, and Gilkey might actually go for a little cheeky flagpole here. Has the assistance of Sab, so he can move this one over towards this side, but just needs to stay alive now, because already there's some pressure here from Cloud9.
And there it is. That's that first delay that you were talking about. Sometimes not giving it up right away in your base, but unfortunately they're going to run to StelluR and Pznguin, who are putting some damage over on this Car side. Let's see what they decide to do with this flag. Looks like they're kind of taking their time, and this one's going to be tough. Knowing that any moment Pznguin can come out with that skewer, until Penguin's been called out, which it looks like he's been called out clearly as he killed Straight Sick, you cannot push that across comfortably, especially in exposed area. And what a good read there and bait out of that skewer. Sab is on fire, like I've said so far this series. Let's see what he does here to continue this flag run. Somehow that flag's already almost recovered. That was way faster than I expected. I didn't see who was standing on it right away.
Bound gets the overkill out of nowhere. That's why it was so easy. When you've got a man like that absolutely flying in and getting all 4 dead, and now we can run this flag to the rest of the team. Maybe you wait a little second and he got carried away because of the overkill there.
Maybe a little pause, but right there, they just want to go, go, go. This is going to be Eco bringing in Sab, the last defender, buying time. He's one shot, and that plasma doesn't get the pick off. Now, this is tough. You're getting sandwiched from both sides. Do you run it back over towards Sab, or do you go back into the fire? It looks like Eco tries to hold those players off, and Cloud9 barely put that flag in, but at what cost? 3 members down, Gaskin.
Go, Cloud9 Rangers, like they were mighty morphing their way in. An overkill for Bound, and he gets the capture. But now G2, as you say, have the counter opportunity. But here are C9. Eco gets the assist with Pznguin. They're going to be able to get a couple of kills on the board, and this flag has instantly been shut down unless Barcode can do similar magic to what we just saw from Bound.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly got a couple of kills, but once again, it depends on where Cloud9 spawns, and this is unfortunate for Sab. Runs it right into StelluR. StelluR gets the trade that he was looking for, and that is going to be a flag stopped. And yes, G2 could move that one again, but you're pretty neutral territory. I'd be hesitant to move that flag until you get a couple more slays. Otherwise, you're just asking for a counter cap.
Well, Straight Sick was able to get one of those slays. Gilkey gets his head down, but falls, and you always got to be careful. As you say, that counter cap is possible unless Sab can continue to do the damage. Has to take on Bound, wins the fight versus Bound. Now he can keep running. Eco's last remaining player, but gets the kill. This is what Catalyst flag is all about. Trying to get those final kills, trying to get that final damage, trying to keep touching that flag. G2 still have this one alive. Is there any last-ditch attempts from Cloud9? They try and barrage them from across the map, but it goes in, and G2 tie at this game.
What a string of ridiculous events there for both sides, as it felt like they were able to get the recovery, it felt like they're getting clutch kills, but everyone just making incredible plays, being at the right place at the right time. But in the end, G2 just chipping away at Cloud9 there and bringing that flag back. Think about how many battles they had to do for that flag. There was a whole slew of battles over the Cloud9 base. Then once they got over towards car side, a whole nother round of battles. It's one of those things that doesn't feel like very similar to many other maps here in Halo Infinite, where it feels like, all right, you get one little trade of slays and you get that flag mostly across the map. Here, they had to do 3 to 5 engagements to get that flag back.
All the meanwhile, the flag was moving once more. Can Cloud9 put it in? Pznguin can, but straight 6 there with Overshield and with the sword, but he's going to get absolutely schmelted. Can he get the return before he goes down? No, he cannot. Is there anyone to get the touch is the real question. The Observer does catch it. Bound again puts it in. And even though there was Overshield, there was sword, it was not enough to stop this one. Cloud9 take a 2-1 lead.
And right there, a similar scenario. You can't take it for granted. Once you get that flag back to the base, you have to do that last battle. You saw Pznguin kind of desperately trying to just slide it in. And I mean, that might work in Antarctica, Pznguin, but that doesn't work here on Catalyst.
This could be a top mid run as well. StelluR, noticing that there are a few players maybe stuck on one side of the map. He saw Pznguin was there to help him, and this flag is already going to be punched in by Cloud9. It's 3-1 in one of the quickest flag caps you'll see on Catalyst. That top middle run is so effective when you can pull it off. 3 are dead for G2, make it 4 dead for G2, and another flag is moving.
And look at this coordination. All the members of Cloud9 going here on pink side. They have StelluR above, laying down shots, realizes that, all right, my flag player is no longer getting melted, and here comes the escort back to the flag. StelluR going all the way back towards his corner. And look at this, reading out the grapple play, knowing that grapple is up on car side and hits a flying barcode saying, yeah, you have a long flight here to North America, but it ends right now.
Sends him back down under, and now 4-1 lead, 6 minutes on the clock, and Cloud9 are starting to show why they deserve to be in that top 4, why they still deserve to be in that conversation for pushing, not just for top 4. Remember, at time, Cloud9 were winning these tournaments, and they want to be back on top, even with this new look roster. Sab has fallen. Bound has also gone down on the other side. Overshield has just popped. This is a really important moment for G2. If they can get a couple of slays, if they can get this Overshield, if they can get the next flag in, it's still winnable for them. It is not do-all and be-all. It's not all-end-all at this point, as I say that. StelluR, well, it's be-all and end-all as he goes off the map.
It gets a little excited, slides down there, grabs Overshield, and burns it. I used to call, I was like, don't worry, guys. I took the Overshield player out. Overshield's off the map. It just says you jumped off the map, Walsh. I said it's taken care of. Don't ask me about it.
You guys don't need to worry, all right? There's the grapple. Barcode loses the flag to a teammate who quickly zips it away faster than Spider-Man, and now Sab should be able to punch this one in. There you go, it's 4-2, and suddenly now G2 are back in this game, and they still have plenty of time to work with here, Walsh.
Let's see what Sab's going to help his team do here. I mean, he has the most kills in the game. He's been the superstar of this series for the G2 roster, and they need him now more than ever. They have to put 2 more caps on the board within 5 minutes to bring this to an overtime.
Nose Bounder's there now, and Bounder's getting aggressive. No scope could have hit, should have possibly hit, really. Skewer up close and personal usually connect, but Bound with the slide, maybe just being able to get under the reticule there.
I mean, it felt like Bound was one of the fastest players early on in Halo Infinite. Everyone was highlighting his incredible movement, you know, both him and Lucid. And right there, just being put in a do-or-die situation, Bound saying, you know what? You either hit this and kill me, or I'm getting this kill. And so Bound just doing a great heads-up 1v1 play.
13 kills for Sab at the moment. Does spot out one member of Cloud9. It's going to be Pznguin, who's just picked up a double kill, and Pznguin was not even interested about looking for the triple. Instead, he knew he had to stay alive. He was under pressure, but now there comes the absolute swarm from Cloud9. Pznguin gets the damage, Pznguin gets the kill. And as the time ticks away, Cloud9 know if they can just control the map with slays here, they should still be able to win.
Look at all the extra time that Pznguin bought by drawing those players all the way on the outskirts of car side. Instead, we now see StelluR able to pick up that flag and just walks it. Doesn't even toss it until now. But all these members of Cloud9 know the drill. They're getting the damage out. There goes the Overshield player. 2 down for G2, and the flag is moving on both sides. Sab's going for a counter pull because he does not want to be put in a do-or-die situation again. And Sab got to be one shot, and that's going to be frustrating for Eco. Eco's going to try to get this finish real quick.
It's a last-ditch attempt to try and pull this flag. Barcode with great shots onto Eco. Will still keep it alive, but 2 members have fallen on G2. G2. Same on Cloud9. This could be the end of the game if it goes in favor of C9, but G2 have been able to get it round. They do still have the flag, and now they've got to have a fight in their base. There's no return just yet. Gilkey will get that touch. Now Pznguin also gets the kill. It's absolute carnage in the G2 base right now.
Cloud9 welcomed the scenario. Clearly they would have loved to get that stop earlier and just get that 5th cap, but anything that's going to waste time off the clock is a good position here for Cloud9. The only fearful position here for Cloud9 is just getting set up or caught in some sort of double cap scenario. That can happen during some of the standoffs. Generally, a standoff ends when one team gets a significant advantage. So this could be a spot where G2 is like, all right, here's our play. We got to send most people over here. Let's go for the kill, recov, and counter cap. So they should be looking for a bigger play here, even though their life is on the line.
Bound being sneaky. I don't think he knows there's a player to his right. He's about to get hit in the back, but oh no, there's no backs back, but Gilkey still gets the kill. And how important could that be? Because Bound could have really caused so much carnage with the sword in the enemy base. But to go back to your point, Dave, as Barcode probably goes down to the grenade, which he does, G2 cannot afford to make a mistake, because if they do, they lose this game 5-2. So it's so tough to try and make that aggressive decision to go for the play. But with only 2 minutes left, they kind of have to. Their backs are against the wall now. They are the team who has to take the initiative here.
Yeah, G2 have to be the ones to get aggressive. You're entirely right there. And what Cloud9 are doing, though, it's wise. They're not just turtling up fully to set up some sort of double cap, counter cap scenario, but at the same time, they aren't just forcing that action. They aren't just going over the base. Instead, they're just holding strong positions, getting slays in the center of the map so that they have a couple different attempts to stop a flag recovery. And that's going to be StelluR and Bound going up for this recovery, forcing G2 to go back. Sab falls down. That's going to be 2 going down. Flag returned, and the 5th and final flag going in for Cloud9. We have them moving on to the elimination bracket semifinals. G2 going out in 5th/6th place.
Cloud9 salutes, and Cloud9 march on to the top 4. It's unfortunately a time we have to say goodbye to G2, who have had such an amazing tournament. But one of these teams who are kind of in that top 4 scenario had to face Cloud9 in the elimination bracket. Just unfortunate the seeding worked out that it was G2 who had to go up against these mammoths. Bound with 22 kills, Eco with 21. It really was a very impressive game from this Cloud9 roster on Catalyst Capture the Flag. The way they managed it, the way we were able to get those pulls, and actually that very quick top-middle flag run really sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, it just gave them that significant lead where G2, they took one mistake and it's like, all right, those mistakes, that'll cost us a cap. And then you actually check the receipt. Wait, dude, that cost us 2 caps? I didn't read the fine print on the menu there, and unfortunately just goes down a bit too much. And as you get to those larger deficits, you're forced to make bigger and riskier plays.
5.5k damage for Eco. We always say that Eco is the brains of this team, but he was also the brawn of it as well, was really shredding through G2 on Catalyst Capture the Flag. And the series will go in their favor 3-1. It was a Slayer Aquarius that G2 were able to take a game. And I think for first showing of Barcode and this first showing of G2's new roster, I was very impressed, as I'm sure the rest of the community were as well. And I don't think this is going to be the last time that we are screaming Barcode's name on a main stream. But there is confirmation of the series layout. It is mostly blue, that one little dip and blip, which was Slayer Aquarius. Dave, where do you see Cloud9 in the overarching story of this tournament, though? How far can you realistically see them going?
I mean, prior to seeing them play this weekend, I had them placing 3rd in my predictions. And this still feels like a pretty safe spot, you know, winning another match here. But I don't know if I can see them overcoming right now Optic or Sentinels with how both those rosters have been performing.
Optic and Sentinels are obviously the big targets, but you've got either G1 or Reunited waiting in that elimination bracket, and both of those would be very difficult games indeed.